Hi, everybody, and welcome to another crazy fun adventure in the lands of Finkyra with Merlin and friends. In chapter 12, which we read last night, we met two siblings, Halia and Erwan, yes. And I'm very excited because she's one of my favorite characters. So, here we are going to read To Run Like a Deer, chapter 13. Halia, her portion of the story finished, gazed solemnly at the splattering stream. Though I had been struck by the brutality of her words, I had been struck even more by the anguish in her voice. Aramon rose slowly to face her. Would it be fair to say, my sister, that Hevied might have lived if he had understood more? Perhaps, she replied, pausing even longer than usual before she continued. Yet it would also be fair to ask, did the fault belong to him, or to the man who slew him? Both, I declared, standing once more. That's usually the way of it, with fault, I mean. I've seen often my own faults combine with someone else's to make things worse. While Halia backed away to the very edge of the stream, Aramon remained still, watching me quizzically. And how, young hawk, do you know so much about your faults? Without hesitation, I answered, I have a sister. His whole face wrinkled in a smile, which vanished as soon as Halia glanced at him sharply. Tell us now, what brought you here, and why do you feel so much of a lone wolf in you? Feeling the sudden urge to lean against my staff, I instinctively scanned the grass. All at once I remembered. My staff was gone, destroyed, along with my powers. The boy of the wizard's staff, the trees of the Druma had called me. I cringed at the memory. I had something unusual, something precious, and now it's lost. Aramon's thick eyebrows drew together. What is this thing? I hesitated. Tell us, young hawk. Gravely I spoke the word. Magic. Whether or not I might ever become a true wizard, I still have some gifts in magic. I paused, reading the doubt in both of their faces. You must believe me. I came to the realm of the dwarves at Arnalda's request to help her battle Valdirg, Wings of Fire. Then she turned on me, stole my powers. I touched my chest. I feel, this emptiness now. My magic, my essence was just ripped away. If only you could feel it. You would know I speak truly. Aramon's ears, slightly pointed at the top like those of all Finkyran men and women, quivered for an instant. I can feel it, he said softly. Turning to his sister, he asked by his expression whether or not she agreed. Yet Halia's face showed only mistrust. Slowly, she shook her head, her long braid glinting in the sun. My jaw tightened. If you believe nothing else, at least heed this. In just 6.5 days, all of Finkyra will know Valdirg's rage. Unless, that is, I can find some way to stop him. Aramon's eyes widened. And I have no idea where to begin. My hand squeezed the air as if it would have my staff. Should I just submit to the dragon now? Let him devour me? It might satisfy him. Arnalda said it would. But it might not. He could just continue on his rampage, destroying whatever he likes. I've got to prevent that. You ask a lot of yourself, observed Aramon. I sighed again. One of my faults. My attention to the circle of the mud at our feet. It's hopeless, really, like the wolf in our story. In frustration, I struck my fist against my palm. Those 2 deer should have just let me die. Halia started. What did you say? I winced. If you doubt the rest, then you'll never believe this part. For the first time, she looked straight at me. Tell us about the deer. Well, it's enough to say that 2 brave deer, for whatever reason, risked their lives to save me just last night. It was they who brought me here. No, it's true. I wish I could thank them, even though things would be simpler if they hadn't bothered. I hadn't any idea where they are now. Halia's deep eyes probed me. It seemed to me that a new doubt, different than before, shone in them. Then, suddenly aware that I was returning her gaze, she turned shyly away. Her brother bent toward her. Say what you will about his words. I, for one, judge them true. She took him by the arm. Part of what he says may be true, but only part. Remember, he is She caught herself. A creature not to be trusted. Her brother shook loose. A creature not so different from ourselves. He pushed a hand through his nut brown hair and faced me. The wings of fire has awakened is no secret, nor that he has done much recently to punish the dwarves. Because the dwarves have very few friends in other parts of Finkyra, most of us who live on their borders have just assumed they brought this trouble on themselves. But no, if your tale is true, Valdir's anger must spring from another cause altogether. Grimly, I nodded. It does. A cold wind arose, ruffling the grasses. His eggs, his only young, were murdered. Halia tossed a braid over her shoulder. I feel no sorrow for him. He has wasted so many lands, so many lives. Still, I can't help but feel sympathy for his hatchlings, murdered like that, without even a chance to escape. I frowned. I feel no sympathy for them. They would have only grown up to be like... My words trailed off as I realized what I was about to say. Like their father. How different was that from what Arnalda had said about me? Aramon's voice resonated clearly. For my part, I feel no sympathy for them at all. For my part, I feel sympathy for them all. They did not seek to be born as dragons, but merely to be born. He paused, watching me. Do you know who killed them? A man. His ears trembled once more. And who was that man? I swallowed. Valdir believes it was me, since I am descended from his greatest foe, Tuatha, but it was not. I swear it was not. His brow knitted as he studied me for a long moment. At last he announced, I believe you, young hawk. He drew a deep breath. And I will help you. Aramon, cried his sister, all her hesitancy gone. You can't. If his words are true, all of Finkyra should rise to help. But you don't know. I know enough. He stroked his prominent chin. Yet I wish I knew one more thing. Where those dragon eggs have lain hidden these many years. If only we could find whatever is left of them, we might find a sign. Something that could tell us who is the true killer. I've thought of that as well, I replied. But the remains of the eggs could be anywhere. We have no time to search. Besides, what we need to find most is not the killer, but some way to stop Valdir. At that, a wisp of an idea rose within me. A desperate, outlandish idea. And, with it, an overwhelming sense of dread. Aramon! I know what I must do in whatever time remains. It's a foolish hope, yet I can think of no other. I faced him squarely, and it's far too dangerous to ask anyone else to join me. Halia's somber face lightened. Aramon, for his part, regarded me gravely. One of the few things I know about my grandfather's battle with Valdir ages ago is that he triumphed only with the help of an object of great power, a pendant full of magic, known as the Galator. Both pairs of brown eyes stared at me. For a time, I myself wore it around my neck, yet I learned very little of its secrets. My shoulders started to droop as I realized that, without my own powers, the Galator's magic might be useless to me. And yet, there was at least a chance. I tried to stand taller. I must get it back somehow. If I can, it just might defeat the dragon once again. Where is it now? Queried Aramon. I bit my lip. With the hag, Dom knew, also called Dark Fate. She lives at the farthest reaches of the haunted marsh. Halia inhaled sharply through her nose. Then you had best devise another plan. You cannot possibly walk all the way there and back in just 6.5 days. I winced at her words. You're right. It would be difficult enough, even if I could run like a deer. Aramon threw back his head. But you can. Before I could ask what he meant, he turned and started running across the grass, his feet moving effortlessly. He loped faster and faster until his legs became a blur of motion. He leaped forward, his broad back nearly horizontal, his arms almost touching the ground. The muscles of his neck tightened as his chin thrust forward. Then, to my astonishment, his arms transformed into legs, pounding over the turf. His tunic melted away, replaced by fur, while his feet and hands became hooves. From his head sprouted a great rack of antlers, 5 points on each side. He swung around, flexing his powerful haunches as he bounded back over the field. In an instant, he stood before us again, every bit a stag. Okay, my friends, that was chapter 13. We will read chapter 14 called Aramon's Gift tomorrow at 10 p.m. Pacific time. I hope you all join me then and have a wonderful night.